It's Dr. Casi Alleman with Whittington Vet Clinic, and today we'll be talking about brachycephalic breeds. So we'll go over a few questions, and if you have any questions, just give us a call. So the first question is, what are brachycephalic dog breeds and what makes them unique? So brachycephalic literally means shark-headed, and so this term refers to those dog breeds that we call flat-faced, or have that like really sharpened snouts. Some of the common brachycephalic breeds are pugs, boxers, shih tzus, King Charles Spaniels, and English and French bulldogs will be the most common breeds we'll see around here. Some of the very common health issues or respiratory issues, eye issues, skin issues, and gastrointestinal issues. One of the common questions we get is, why do brachycephalic breeds have trouble breathing? And so it usually pertains to some of the anatomical abnormalities that they have. And so there's four common things. One is called stenotic nares, where the opening of their nose is very small. The second one is a hypoplastic trachea, so their actual airway that goes from their nose down to their lungs is a lot smaller than it should be for their size, and so that can make it a lot harder for them to breathe. One of the other things is an elongated soft palate, and so that palate will hang down in that airway and actually prevent air from moving the way it's supposed to. And the last one is inverted saccules. And so there's this structure that actually inverts and also gets in the way of the airway. And so those abnormalities all together are what's called BOAS. And so it's a brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome. And so how can you tell, if your dog is experiencing some breathing difficulties? And one of the most common thing we'll see is like noisy breathing, so snoring, wheezing, snorting. A lot of times these guys are very exercise intolerant, so they're not very active. They're unable to run around and play for long periods of time. Sometimes they'll actually present as gagging or coughing, and we'll see these guys coming in with vomiting, and that's actually a symptom of that. But more of the more severe signs would be like labored breathing, or if they get cyanotic, so their tongue or their gums get really purple, and some of these guys can actually collapse. So if you see some of those more severe signs, you definitely want to get these guys in, for an exam to discuss, further management of those conditions. Okay. So what are some of the best ways to manage breathing issues in brachycephalic breeds? So one of the top ways is weight management. So keeping these guys at a healthy weight can really help manage some of these symptoms, because when they're obese, it puts extra pressure on their airways, makes it more difficult for them to breathe. So keeping these guys active and exercising to keep them at a healthy weight can make their breathing a lot better. Also, environmental adjustments. So creating a comfortable environment for them is key, ensuring that they have access to cooler rooms, air conditioning, especially during the hot summer months, and also to avoid very strenuous exercise, especially when it's hot and humid outside. It can help reduce, the risk of heat-related injuries such as heat stroke. Gentle exercise, so engaging in shorter walks rather than longer walks with these guys can really be helpful, and closely observing them during these times of exercise. So if they start showing signs of distress, like panting or being very lethargic, not wanting to get up and walk, it's time to give them a rest. And also the use of a harness. So using a harness distributes that weight over their chest instead of pulling on their airway, and so it can help prevent undue or unnecessary pressure on that airway, which would essentially lead to more difficulty breathing. So the next question, what precautions should I take when walking my dog in hot weather? So heat is very dangerous for animals, especially brachycephalic breeds. So the way that these guys regulate their body temperature or prevent themselves from overheating, dogs in general, is through breathing and panting. And so these brachycephalic breeds, as we previously discussed, already have trouble breathing, and so their mechanism to be able to cool down is already compromised just due to their anatomy. And so we really have to monitor these guys super closely when they're outside, especially during the hot and humid months. And if we notice any signs of overheating, so panting, drooling, weakness, disorientation, you really should get them to your veterinarian right away to have them further evaluated for heat stress. Okay, so what are some of the surgical options that are available for some of these severe breathing problems with dogs? So in some severe cases, there's some procedures that can be done to help with that BOAS syndrome. So with the elongated soft palate, there's a procedure where you can go in and actually remove that extra tissue so that it's not hanging in that area anymore. You can actually remove those inverted saccules as well. And then there's a procedure where you can open up the nares, make that airway more open, and make it easier for these guys to breathe. The only condition of that we can't address surgically is if they have a hypoplastic trachea. But in a lot of these guys, if you address some of those other issues, they're able to breathe much better. And so the hypoplastic trachea is not as big of an issue when by itself. So the last question is, how can I improve the overall quality of life for my brachycephalic breed? So to enhance our overall quality of life, really avoid excessive heat and humidity when you can. We're in Louisiana, but just avoiding, that outside exercise, especially like during the summer and the spring. Try to walk them in the morning, early in the morning or late in the evening during those cooler hours of the day. Maintain a healthy weight, limit strenuous activities, and again, try to use that collar to prevent excessive pressure on that airway. And then consider surgical intervention in these guys where it's indicated or necessary. So I think that covers, the basics of brachycephalic breeds. So if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Our number is 337-893-8522, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.